I will say one interesting thing, which I have mentioned previously. It is interesting how Russia is so badly losing the propaganda war. I don't know if it depends who you really talk to about whether they are actually losing this or not. Because some people are like, look, yes, they're not killing, they're not maybe having won this war, but they could. They're just, not putting their foot on the gas. Depends who you ask. Some people say, Ukraine is winning the war. Some people say they're not. I guess it's the whole fog of war thing. How are you supposed to know, right? But Russia is definitely losing the propaganda war. They are, in terms of the court of public opinion, which is not meaningless because, it's the thing that pressures politicians and stuff. And, they see this stuff. They are definitely losing this. And an interesting thing is, because this is a mostly Twitter, social media based war, we were led to believe for the last 5 years that Russia was so good at social media and so good at propaganda that they were able to rig the entire U.S. election. Remember that whole thing where they were so good at this that they rigged our election. They made people vote for someone that they would have never voted for and didn't want to vote for. They did that. They were so good. And then now they're just like, yeah, I guess they lost the magic touch. They had the hot hand in 2015, 2016. They had the real hot hand, and now they lost it. They do not have the hot hand anymore. And it is interesting, and kind of a interesting thing too. So I don't know if, and this is kind of an example of how they're losing the war. So there was a shopping mall in Kiev that got bombed. Right, it gets bombed. Russia says that the Ukrainians were storing weapons there. They're storing all these weapons, which is kind of a playbook that is normal. You hear that in kind of a lot of the wars, like the Israel-Palestine thing, a lot of like the wars in the Middle East. They'll be like, yeah, they bombed a school. And they're like, yeah, but there's nobody in the school. And they were storing all their missiles and shit there. So that was kind of like a military target. And it was empty, right? But so they bombed this mall. And then Russia comes out and they go, look, there was nobody there and they were storing all these weapons. It was a military target. But even if that's true, it doesn't really matter because the story throughout basically the entire world is that they bombed a mall and that they're pieces of shit and there's no excuse for bombing a mall. There was a fucking Rainforest Cafe in that mall, okay? They bombed the only mall with a Rainforest Cafe in it in all of Ukraine, okay? These fucking animals. But the point is, it doesn't matter because if in 3 months it comes out and they go, hey, remember when they bombed that mall? Turns out there actually was totally justified. There were tons of weapons in there. And I say this because there's a few interesting things that's kind of, you're seeing the correction side of it now and how it really doesn't matter, the correction. And so the first one is, and this is an obvious one, but the Hunter Biden laptop. So New York Times came out this last week and they go, yeah, remember the Hunter Biden laptop, which you literally were not allowed to reshare a New York Post article, and Leslie Stahl laughed in Trump's face, and everybody was like, this is Russian disinformation. This is back when Russia was still good at disinformation. Remember when they were still good at disinformation? So this is back then, and they go, it's a lie, it's unverifiable, it's nonsense, right? They come out, and, did Trump lose the election because of that thing? Hard to say. Obviously hard to say. I'm sure it would have helped him. It would not have hurt him. It certainly would have hurt Joe Biden, and it would have not hurt Trump. And, especially when, a lot of stuff is how Trump's has the fucked up family or whatever. You would think that it would help. And then they come out and they go, whoops, got that one wrong. Look at that. Remember when we wouldn't let you post about that? We got that one wrong. But the damage is done. And another thing is, and this is to a lesser extent, but the Ottawa trucker convoy, if you remember that, seems like 5 years ago, but it was like a month ago. Excuse me. There was this thing where they go, yeah, some of the truckers, they went to burn down an apartment building in Ottawa. Remember that? They go, they taped or locked up the doors and then they lit some fire starter thing or whatever. And they were arsonists and they were part of the truckers or whatever. And then this whole thing was all over social media being like, what? This is insane. These truckers are, not only do they want freedom, they want the freedom to be arsonists and kill people. And everybody's like, these people are horrible, right? They're horrible, horrible people. And then it just comes out to go, yeah, we found it was some kid, had nothing to do with the truckers. It's unrelated. If anything, it was to set up the truckers, which it succeeded. But the damage in the press was done. Nobody was like, I mean, there were a few people, Jonathan Kay and a few others, who were kind of defending, not even defending, me like, hey, let's maybe be calm about this because it's obviously probably not what happened. And then guess what? It's not what happened.